morning. Today is Monday, March 23rd, and we'll be reading Deuteronomy 5 and 6.
All right. Do you have it? Yep, right there. Wait. You're in April, buddy.
Eh?
No. You're just advancing us through the year. We're in March. Where's 5? Will you show me Deuteronomy 5? Right there. Oh, you're hiding it.
Looking for March.
Do you have Deuteronomy 5, Gabriel? Oh, now you have it. 5. You have it, Matthew?
Yes.
You have it, Catherine? You, another journey. All right. Oh, no, we're not doing 7. We're doing 5. And 6. Yes, so get back to 5. You have 5?
Okay, let's see.
Oh, find 5. You have 5.
Chapter 5, the Ten Commandments. Then Moses called all Israel and said to them, Hear, O Israel, the statutes and ordinances which I am speaking in your hearing today, so that you may learn them and keep and do them. The Lord our God made a covenant with us in Horeb. The Lord did not make this covenant with our fathers, but with us, who are living now and here today. The Lord talked with you face to face on the mountain from the midst of the fire. I stood between the Lord and you at that time to declare to you the word of the Lord, for you were afraid because of the fire that would not go up to the mountain, he said. I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt from the house of bondage. You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourself any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in the heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the waters beneath the earth. You shall not bow down to them nor serve them. For I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers on the children, on the third and fourth generations of those who hate me, but showing mercy to thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. You shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain, for the Lord will not exonerate anyone who takes his name in vain. Keep the Sabbath day to keep it holy, just as the Lord your God has commanded you. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord your God. On it you shall not do any work, not your son, nor your daughter, nor your male servant, nor your female servant, nor your ox, nor your donkey, nor any of the livestock, nor the foreigner that is within your gates, so that your male servant and your female servant may rest as well as you. Remember that you were servants in the land of Egypt, and that the Lord your God brought you out of there with a mighty hand and by an outstretched arm. Therefore your God commanded you to keep the Sabbath day. Honor your father and your mother, just as the Lord your God has commanded you, that your days may be prolonged and it may go well with you in the land which the Lord your God is giving you. You shall not murder. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife, nor shall you covet your neighbor's house, his field, his male servant, his female servant, his ox, his donkey, or anything that belongs to your neighbor. These are the words the Lord spoke to all your assembly at the mountain out from the midst of the fire, the cloud, and the thick darkness with a great voice. And he added no more. He wrote them on 2 tablets of stone and gave them to me. When you heard the voice out of the midst of the darkness, while the mountain did burn with fire, you came near to me, all the heads of your tribes and your elders. You said, See, the Lord our God has shown us his glory and his greatness, and we have heard his voice from the midst of the fire. We have seen this day that God speaks with man, yet he lives. Now therefore, why should we die? For this great fire will consume us. If we hear the voice of the Lord our God any more, then we will die. For who is there of all flesh who has heard the voice of the living God, speaking out of the midst of the fire, as we have and lived? Go near and hear all that the Lord our God will say, and speak to us all that the Lord our God will speak to you, and we will hear and do it. The Lord heard the sound of your words, and you spoke to me, and the Lord said to me, I have heard the sound of the words of his people, which they have spoken to you. They have done well in all that they have spoken. Oh, that there were such a heart in them, that they would fear me and always keep my commandments, that it might be well with them and with their children forever. Go and say to them, return to your tents. But as for you, stand there by me, so that I may speak to you all the commandments, and the statutes, and the ordinances which you shall teach them, and they may keep them in the land which I am giving them to possess. Therefore be careful to do as the Lord your God has commanded you. You shall not turn aside to the right hand or to the left. You shall walk in all the ways which the Lord your God has commanded you, so that he may live and that it may be well with you, and that you may prolong your days in the land which you shall possess. Chapter 6, the greatest commandment. Now these are the commandments, the statutes, and the ordinances which the Lord your God commanded to teach you, so that he may observe them in the land which you are crossing over to possess, so that you might fear the Lord your God in order to keep his statutes and his commandments, which I command you, you and your sons and your grandson, all the days of your life, so that your days may be prolonged. Hear therefore, O Israel, and be careful to do it, so that it may be well with you, and so that it may multiply you greatly, as the Lord the God of your fathers has promised you in the land that flows with milk and honey. Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord is one. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. These words which I am commanding you today shall be in your heart. You shall teach them diligently to your children, and shall talk of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up. You shall bind them as a sign on your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. You shall write them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. Then it shall be, when the Lord your God brings you into the land which he swore to your fathers, to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, to give you great and fine cities which you did not build, and houses full of all good things which you did not fill, and hewn cisterns which you did not dig, vineyards and olive trees which you did not plant, and you eat and are full. Then beware lest you forget the Lord who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. You shall fear the Lord your God, and serve him, and shall swear by his name. You shall not go after other gods, the gods of the people which surround you. For the Lord your God is a jealous God among you. Otherwise the anger of the Lord your God will be inflamed against you, and destroy you from off the face of the earth. You shall not contempt the Lord your God, as you tempted him in Massah. You shall diligently keep the commandments of the Lord your God, and his testimonies, and his statutes which he has commanded you. You shall do what is right, and do good in the sight of the Lord, that it may be well with you, and that you may go and possess the good land which the Lord swore to your fathers, to drive out all your enemies before you, just as the Lord has spoken. When your son asks you in time to come, saying, what do the testimonies and statutes and the judgments mean, which the Lord our God has commanded you? Then you shall say to your son, we were slaves of Pharaoh in Egypt, and the Lord brought us out of Egypt with a mighty hand. And the Lord showed great and devastating signs and wonders upon Egypt, upon Pharaoh, and upon all his household before our eyes. He brought us out from there, so that he might bring us in to give us the land which he swore to our fathers. The Lord commanded us to do all these statutes, to fear the Lord our God for our good ways, that he might preserve us as he has to do this day. It will be our righteousness if we are careful to keep all the commandments before the Lord our God, just as he has commanded us. Deuteronomy 5 and 6.
Hold on. Okay, there is a part here in 6. And it says,
You mean 7?
no, in 6. It says, then beware. It's 6:12. Then beware lest you forget the Lord who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. So once you're full, there are sometimes, like we wrote that over the nook in the house that we lived in Houston. The house that we left when we moved here into Fort Worth. When we were building that house, we wrote that over the wood, over that main wood that went over the nook. Well, you weren't alive yet, buddy. But your daddy and I, when it was in the framing stage, we wrote that over that house. And the reason why we wrote that was so that we could remember. Even though it was in the walls and you couldn't see it, we put that there as a reminder to us that this house was a dream that we had wanted. It was something that we didn't think we could attain once upon a time. It was a desire of our heart, and He gave it to us. And so oftentimes we can get to the place where we feel like you forget the journey that you were on to get to the miracle. Right. And so this was that warning that every time that you feel the urge to just start slacking, and yeah, it took a lot of faith and believing and work, kind of, that staying strong in the Lord. It took that battle to get here, but we're full, we're happy, and we forget. And so that was that, then beware lest you forget the Lord who brought you out of the land of Egypt. And so now that we've stepped out from that home and we've come on this new journey, that has meant even more because we saw Him do it once. Right. And so even when we get our house, we need to remember that scripture. He really will bring us into a house that house was built. We got to pick everything, but we weren't the ones doing the hammering and the nailing and the work. And the laying the tile and everything. But anyway, I wanted to share that with you so that we don't skip over it, because that was a very important thing to us all those years ago, and that was 15 years ago. And so it's going to be a very important thing once again, because one of you guys are going to write that one on our next house. All right?
Bye. Have a great day. Please subscribe.